Okay, welcome to episode 213 of the John1911 Podcast. We're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight. It is both a solo podcast on my part and kind of a technology test. The last few podcasts that we had done was a special series with Doc, telling stories about his father and his time with the New York, New Jersey Transit or Port Authority. I get those confused. And the gun industry, and just kind of where he is, and what he was into as far as the kind of guns he grew up with, and his thought process as to why he chose what he chose. So anyway, the audio wasn't that great, and I knew I'd have to address it. So since we've been dealing with a lot of technical issues with the podcast, trying to get everybody together and record while we're mobile, I'm doing it. This is kind of also an audio test. So I expect another episode of a podcast tomorrow or the next day. So don't worry, we'll have at least part of the gang back together very shortly. So the top of mind issue that I'd like to discuss, and because I don't want to miss it, we've been wanting to talk about it, is the announcement that Glock has filed a patent for a rifle in the European Union. I'd imagine they filed it in Austria, but I don't know if it's a common EU patent office, how they do it over there, but some little gun nerd research group over there doing regular patent searches for certain things, they detected that Glock had filed a patent for a 5.56 caliber piston-driven rifle that accepts AR15 magazines. It looks like it has an AR18 or AR180, depending on if you know what that is, recoil system. So for the modern people today, for the younger folks, that would be basically a SIG MCX recoil system, is an AR18 recoil system. So you can probably have a folding buttstock. Doesn't have a buffer tube, I don't believe, in the stock. So and I think it's got ambi charging handle. It looks very modular. It looks interesting. It doesn't look like an AR-15. It's obviously not an AR-15. I even think it has a annular type gas port system. So it's like the gas port is circular and pushes the piston probably from all sides, which is kind of reminds me of some of the older gun designs from the past. But to tell that story, I guess now I can tell this story. So it is now 2021, and an old coworker of mine was hired by Glock to be one of their training staff, and he had come back, and he was still working for Glock, and we were together, and a bunch of us, and he was talking about Glock has a rifle, and this was, at the latest, this was in 2012, and it could have been before then, but I figured 2011, 2012 at the latest. And we had no reason to not believe him, but he was very cagey on it, and he said that you could tell it was not a done deal. It wasn't decided. Glock, what his interfacing with this gun, it wasn't. You could tell Glock probably hadn't settled on a design, much less even settled on whether they really wanted to do a rifle. And so all he would say is, we would ask him, I said, so is it 5.56? He's like, yes. Is it an AR-15? He goes, no. Or he wouldn't say, maybe he wouldn't say. I can't quite remember. And we asked him, does it take AR-15 magazines? What kind of magazines does it use? He's like, it does use AR-15 Stanag magazines. It's like, this is interesting. So he left the door wide open as to whether, is it an AR-15 or is it not an AR-15? At the time, again, this was, 2012. I mean, that was 9 years ago. The gun and the firearms industry, especially for AR-15s, even though if you look at the AR-15 business as, it's really changed since the global war on terror, since after 2003, 2001, and then 2003 it really took off. The AR-15 that you carry today, or the options you can buy today, is very different than what was available to us in the 90s. The market, even then, saturated from 11 years ago, is still very different today. The amount of super high quality AR-15 companies that make, guns that you could literally duty rated and issue, I think there's probably 10 companies easily that, even the fanboys, you can have your favorite boutique AR maker, but there's probably 10 solid American companies. I'd say 10 that make if you had to, if they could scale it, you could give that rifle to the Marine Corps. There's no question it's probably going to be okay. Well, it's like, okay, is 11 years ago, is Glock going to get into the AR-15 game? And, there was some debate. It's like, well, Glock likes to do their own thing. They're probably going to do an AR-15. We were kind of led to believe it wasn't dismissed, but if you think about it logically, it's like, okay, Glock is a worldwide firearms distributor, and there are firearms manufacturer, and they specialize in government, military, and law enforcement contracts. They swing for the fences. And the reality is law enforcement is mostly a pistol business. Military use is mostly rifle business. And so it would be very handy for a company like Glock, not unlike Smith & Wesson, who does it now, to be able to offer a package deal, a 2-for-1 deal for any, possible client. We will give you X amount of pistols with X amount of service package and armor classes and support, plus we can give you X amount of rifles, carbines, for whatever those needs are, with the also associated armors, classes, and hardware support, and yada, yada, yada. So, for the civilian customer today to think about, like, well, why would I buy a Glock AR-15? If Glock is going to make an AR-15, it's not for you, it's not for me, it's not for us, it's not for the American consumer. It's a you know what it is? It's an upsell, like at McDonald's. So when you go and you order your food at the fast food joint and they go, would you like fries with that? Glock is going to be like, would you like an AR-15 with that? That's what the idea is being. Well, so our friend who, as I recall, he said he'd fired this gun. It wasn't something that, he was talked to him about. I believe they brought him a gun, a group of the trainers. They had fired it and probably given feedback, but they were sworn to secrecy. Now, he never said what it was. He just said it was a rifle in 5.56. So, if you think about this 2011, they didn't just put this thing together in 5 minutes. They probably worked on it for, I don't know, a year maybe or two. If it's an AR-15, maybe a couple years. If it's something unique and different, like a truly unique ground up Glock design, they could have been working on it for a decade. Well, that was 9 years ago. And now we have this rifle that a patent's been filed on that looks a lot like a cross between, I would say how would I describe it? We'll have pictures in the comment section of the podcast, but I would say this rifle looks like a cross between a G36 and a SCAR. It looks very modular. You can tell you can tell that this gun's meant to take modularity above and beyond what they've done with the AR-15. And while you can't really tell if the buttstock is foldable, I have no reason to believe there's a buffer tube in it, because it looks like it's an AR-18 design. So they've even, they went and bypassed that. So, just like the SIG MPX, MCX guns. So I guess the next question is, there's a patent that's been found in Europe that is not anything that's coming out of Glock USA. That is not anything that's coming out of anybody that, like the trainers or the shooting staff at Glock aren't leaking this gun. I'm not even certain that this gun even if this gun is ever made, I don't know if it'd ever be sold on a civilian market. You know, if certain gun collectors and aficionados of military and police type firearms, if they think the HK, the 433 with their modular gun, if they think that's going to be a moon rock, I think there's a good chance that in the United States, this rifle, this Glock rifle could be, this thing could be unobtainium. You know, it might just be something where, Glock approaches, say, the city of Singapore, the city-state of Singapore, and goes, hey, we'd like to sell you, you guys are looking for some handguns. Would you like fries with that? We have this Glock rifle, and, Singapore gets them. Or, some small group in South Vietnam gets them. Or maybe some police unit in Brazil gets them. I think it's an interesting gun. I think it's, I'm glad it's on AR-15 as a gun collector for reference collection. But also, I realize right now, number one, nobody's seen this gun in real life that we know of, other than maybe our friend. Two, I have no reason to believe that this gun will ever come into the United States to be sold on the public market. So, I think it's a neat gun. It's something that we were aware of for a long time. I mean, we knew that Glock had a gun because we had a source that told us it had a rifle. And it's interesting to see that, even all those years ago, our buddy, who we have every reason to believe he's not a full of shit guy, there's obviously something to that. So, interesting story. I'd love to see one. Do I think you're going to see one? No, I don't think you're going to see one. So you're asking yourself, how can I support the John 1911 podcast? Since it's already free, it's very simple. Feedback is always appreciated in a podcast app. We love subscribes and followers. Maybe sign up for the mailing list so you can always keep in touch. Leave a comment on the website, or even consider sharing our content on your social media. Thanks everyone for your support. Okay, next subject. This is a reference to a comment that popped up on our YouTube channel. It didn't show up on the website, it showed up on the YouTube, and YouTube tends to bring more international users because by virtue of what YouTube is. And we had posted the video, some content on the Steyr GB pistol. So I guess this is going to turn into an Austrian gun episode. So, we've shot it. We have one. It's got this weird finish. It's, it is what it is. It's not the greatest thing ever. Actually, I think there's a lot of problems with the design, but neither here nor there. So we had a viewer who was a member of a SWAT team, say, I guess it'd be 30 years ago, maybe longer, who they were issued Steyr GB pistols, and apparently it was a dumpster fire. And it's fine. It was a super interesting story. That's why we published it. Obviously redacting the name of the person and the department and all that for because he didn't want to cause any hard feelings. But those are the kind of stories that would be lost to history. So I guess, and I'm assuming this person is in Austria. This person had seen this SWAT review of the Steyr GB pistol. And let me tell you, it was like going back to the gun forum days. This guy was really talking some smack as far as, like what the Steyr GB pistol is and what it can do. So, what was the Top Gun line? Your ass is writing checks, or no, your ego is writing checks that your ass can't cash. So this guy, he popped up and he starts talking about how all this stuff on the gun is superior and it's the greatest gun ever. I mean, he didn't really say it like that. He said everything's superior on the gun, claiming that it recoils less, which it doesn't. I actually think it recoils more. But he was claiming that he has put 100,000 rounds through his Steyr GB9. And it's like, it's like, all right, so number one, you never know who you're talking to. It's certainly possible. Number two, a guy in Austria, fired 100,000 rounds. Okay. I don't know how the Austrian gun culture works, but, I think a 100,000 round shooter might probably put them in the top 1% of shooters in Austria, right? That would be a fair assumption. So, but what used to happen is we would see this. I used to see it, not we. I would see it. That's why I gave up gun forums years ago, because people out there, they lie to themselves about how much they shoot. And this is I'll use myself as an example. How do I say this? We all start from nothing. We all start from, somewhere that probably isn't what we're proud of today. Hopefully, if you're 50 years old like I am, hopefully you're a better person today than you were when you were 19, right? You would hope, you don't peak as the quarterback in high school, right? That's always not the peak of your life. You hopefully grow and progress, right? And, whatever. So what I noticed was all these people, they'd be talking about all these rounds that they fire. And, you kind of feel peer pressure, like, well, I need to be firing that many rounds too. Well, what happens is you start, and again, I don't do this anymore because I have a way to cure this problem. What you do is just like, okay, how many rounds do I have through X gun? And you'll tell yourself, oh, I've had this gun for 5 years. You'd be like, at one time I shot 300 rounds. Yeah, and I went another time and I shot 300 rounds. And so, but I've shot it some more. And so, I put, hell, if you add all that's probably, that's probably close to 1,000 rounds. And then it's like, well, you own the gun for 5 years and, I probably shoot that much. I probably put 5,000 rounds with that gun in 5 years. And people believe this. The worst lie you can ever tell is a lie you tell yourself. And there's a lot of dudes on these gun forums that they're not lying to hurt you. They're not lying to, get over on you or to manipulate you. They're lying to themselves. And they're telling themselves things that are just, there's no way it's possible. These dudes that take the one weekend when, the one time when they shot a whole bunch, and then they pretend that's what they do even somewhat normally or even, semi-regularly. And if you actually log this kind of stuff, the dude who says he's got 5,000 rounds through the gun is lucky if he's got 900. And I'm not exaggerating. He's probably got 400 or 500 or 600. It's, and then you see these guys and, so a couple things here. So the first thing was, I'm like, all right, so I thought about, I'd like, I'm going to have to back up off this comment for a minute. Cause look, I'm not running a gun forum. I keep the comments civilized. I love everybody that leaves a comment, especially on our website. I'm trying to cultivate friends and friendships, not gotcha games. So I'm like, what? I'm just going to think about this for a minute. So, I kind of cooled off on it, thought about it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You don't know who you're talking to. He could be the Marky of Austria, a little green hat with a feather in it or something. So I was like, all right, I tell you what, you've got, I sent him, it's public, you can go see this comment. And I told him, and I said, first thing I told him is, why, I addressed some of his issues, his points about why he thought that the recoil system of the Steyr GB was superior, and I told him why I disagree with that. But I said, however, I want to discuss, would you please share with me, I would love to see photographs of a Steyr GB that has 100,000 rounds through it. And I would also, if you could, I'd like you to send photographs, break the gun down. So I want up close photographs, left and right, top and bottom. Break the gun apart. I want to see the internals of the gun. I want to see, the locking surfaces. I want to see the breech face. I want to see X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, and 3. by the way, if you could, because you've fired 100,000 rounds through this gun, could you please share with me your recoil change schedule, your firing pin spring change schedule? Have you or document any other breakages or whatever? And the guy's like, absolutely, I will generate a report for you. And so far, it's been crickets. They've been heard nothing. And it's like, well, it's been, I don't know, almost 2 weeks maybe. If you're shooting that much and you're logging your rounds, it's not that hard to generate the data. I mean, I can pretty much, you hit me with hey, how many rounds does X gun in the armory have in it? Spring changes, whatever. I can pull it up in the logs, and even if it's raw data and it isn't pretty, we can show you round counts. We can show you breakage histories, recoil spring change schedules, and if you absolutely need it and you don't like the summation and you want us to provide documentation for each round fired, when and what days, we can actually generate that data. That's a little bit more painful, but we can do it. A summary is it take me longer to log into the computer than it would be to generate that data for somebody to consume. And it's like, okay, look, I get it. Steyr GB is your favorite gun, or maybe the 1911 is your favorite gun, or maybe the whatever is your favorite gun. Your favorite gun is your favorite gun. Have a favorite gun. The reality is, if you have a favorite gun, Doc always says this, if you have a favorite gun or gun that you believe in, you will shoot that gun better than a gun that you don't believe in. That's just kind of common sense psychology 101. People, if it's a confidence game, it's the mental game. If you like your gun, if you like your car, you're going to drive it better. Okay, so I get it. If you love your Steyr GB gas brake gun, fantastic. But this whole I've got 100,000 rounds through this gun. All right, I mean, even it's like, I would just be curious. all right, if you're Steyr GB, you're getting springs from Steyr. How many springs, how many recoil springs have you put in this gun? 100,000 rounds since you've had this gun for however many years from Steyr. I mean, there should be purchase orders or records. I mean, I guess the point I'm making is, a lot of these folks on the internet, these gun forums, and a lot of these people, you gotta really be careful what you're reading, because there's a lot of horse shit. Okay, there seems to be an inverse correlation between the amount of the post count that a user has and their ability to actually run a gun, or their experience to run a gun. And that's pretty harsh, but it's true. And we try to do a pretty good job of monitoring or curating comments in our comment section. You can obviously come in and criticize us. I mean, especially if it's constructive. I mean, you just hammer the shit out of me. I think it's fantastic. But not going to suffer fools, and I'm not going to suffer nonsense, because that's kind of why we got away from a lot of these generic, firearms media based, online sources. Not that I'm claiming that we're better or more authoritative. It's just more, I'd rather be a schmuck at my own level and be real than pretend to be a ninja or some night elf mohawk space shuttle door gunner, whatever horseshit dude, on some bullshit gun forum and not actually shoot, And I guess I'll use this as an aside to go into another subject real quick. An update on the Porsche. So somebody was asking, what do we have on the Porsche miles wise? It is just shy of 2,000. I think we're 1,800 miles possibly right now. I'd have to check the numbers. I have to check the odometer. It's you can guess, but you check the odometer. And so we'll publish up. I've been driving it quite a bit. We don't take it to the range. There's really no place at the range to take the car. It is a very nice car. But, we're driving it, and it's fun. I did look at a Porsche forum yesterday, trying to get some information on maybe clear bra and some other aftermarket, things to do. And it took about 5 minutes to see the exact same type of jackass behavior that you would see in these gun forums. Like, these people just shitting on each other and mean girling each other. And I'm like, yep. And the forum is called Ren List, maybe Ren something. Ren List, I think is what it's Ren something for the. It's apparently the biggest Porsche forum. But dude, it was. Oh my god. I mean, it was like, I am fucking out of here. Like, we are out. Like, y'all mean girling each other. I'm out here laying the miles down in this car, just having fun and trying to learn a few things. I mean, it's like you can regurgitate every fact you want in some forum about the difference between the IMS bearing and the suspension this and that, and the flywheel weight and all this kind of stuff. You're just some dude on the internet typing on a keyboard, and you're not actually driving a car or experiencing a car or learning how to control a car or failing at a car or wrecking a car or making mistakes on a car. I mean, I would hate to be 80 years old and look back on my life and the only thing I ever accomplished was I have the highest post count on some auto forum or gun forum. I mean, talk about a life wasted. So, anyway, that'll be the end of this audio test, episode 213, 214, whatever it is, of the podcast. I don't know if this will sound good or not. I'm coming up pretty close to home, and heading back from the armory, and it's getting late. So, if you want to see any more stories or pictures or links of anything we discussed, please go to our website at John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night.